What's up, guys, and we're back with the Logan Paul and Janko situation. We have a lot of new updates, and while ending the last video, I clearly told you that Logan Paul has come back with a response video. He's made a 4-minute response video to a 2.5-hour podcast, which is a little insane because, how are you going to cover all the points? Like, it's pretty stupid, right? To have a 4-minute reply to a 2.5-hour podcast. But, I'm just going to, cover up whatever I have to cover up and whatever you guys need to know from what's happening in this situation, which is a little crazy, right? You're going to agree with me in a bit. So, first of all, a lot of people think that Logan Paul has done a great job by, responding to, Janko, and they think that Logan Paul's right and everybody's losing it. Everybody thinks Logan Paul cooked and everybody thinks he's Gordon Ramsay. By the way, I'm getting this from Kavos. If I hadn't seen Kavos' video, I wouldn't have even realized that I was kind of manipulated by what Logan Paul said. And if you watch Kavos' video, you will know that Logan Paul wasn't straight about a lot of things. So I'm going to tell you this right now. Logan Paul clipped a lot out of the podcast, which had to be convenient for him, and it made it look like he was right when that was not the case. That's primary. I'm telling you all that now because he does it a lot of times throughout. So, I just thought I should tell you right away, This is for all the people commenting that Logan Paul did a great job the second you open Twitter. It wasn't a great job. As much as I used to like Logan Paul's content, as much as I used to, support him when he was going to fight KSI, and as much as all of that, I don't think this is the right way to be handling a situation. So Logan Paul responds to George when he talks about how he was being paid only $5,000 on the podcast. But George clearly said that he was being paid $5,000 only for a particular few months when the episode was slow. And honestly, $5,000 is a lot of money. But on a show like Impulsive, which is a multi-million-dollar show, do you really think that a co-host should be paid only $5,000 when he specifically said that his monthly expenses to be on Impulsive were $10,000 a month? It is crazy, right? I mean, you're earning only $5,000. And George never said that he didn't earn a sizable amount of money from Impulsive. He accepted that he earned a sizable amount of money. He was talking about only a specific few months.
When Logan came after me for my religion, the show hit rock bottom and we weren't getting paid. I was getting paid $5,000 a month, and that's covering just Reed. I have a mortgage. I have my sister that works for me. I have Belle. I'm trying to get married. I had all these things. So I had to start my own show because we're not making money on this show, and I'm getting pushed out of this show.
Well, at the time, we weren't making money. You made money on the show.
But at the time, we're a couple months.
How much money did you make over the course
I can show you my books. I was spending 10 G's a month being on the show.
Right.
George mentioned how grateful he was that Impulsive made him a lot of money. He never said that he earned nothing from Impulsive, or he never said that he never earned any money from Impulsive. He was only talking about a particular period where he earned only $5,000.
I had to start my own show because we're not making money on this show, and I'm getting pushed out.
Money on the show.
I can show you my books. I was spending 10 G's a month being on the show.
All right, let's talk about this. Obviously, I wasn't on the podcast to represent myself, so I'd like to clarify a few things that were said. As well as having his own credit card, all expenses related to the show were paid for, including all travel and lodging. Obviously, George's total reimbursement came out to $20,000, 317 cents. I'd love to see any books that show otherwise. Spending $120,000 a year to be on a show is a little confusing.
But Logan literally revealed George's income, and and people were completely taken aback, thinking that, whoa, George earned $300,000 or more, and people lost it. People thought that, George was being ungrateful. George never said that he didn't earn from the podcast. He only said for the particular few months he didn't earn.
The show hit rock bottom and we weren't getting paid. I was getting paid $5,000 a month.
But you did make a sizable amount of money on the show.
And by the way, always grateful. I was always grateful.
Something like that?
Yeah, I don't like to talk about money.
I know he doesn't want to talk money. I know he believes it out, but George made $317,000 in the 15 months that he got paid for on Impulsive.
And he also said that he didn't want to talk about money specifically. For Logan to reveal his income was a little too much. And honestly, all the money that's shown on the screen that George made was only because he was the third and he was a co-host in a huge podcast. It's not because, Logan gave the money to him as a handout or whatever it is. The only reason that George made the money was because people loved George, and Impulsive was running partly because of George too. And he was good, right? He was hilarious for anybody who's seen Impulsive. And that's the reason he earned that money. So for Logan to, manipulate the public to thinking that if a normal person sees the money that Logan shows on the screen and shows that George made it, they're going to lose it. They're going to say that, what the fuck, George said he made only $5,000 a month for every month, and they're going to think he made only $60,000 in the year. But George specifically said he made a sizable amount of money from Impulsive, but for a few months he was making only $5,000. He specified it.
This is a guy who's sending us screenshots of $11 million million a week that he's making.
This statement is so crazy that it's almost laughable. That would mean I'm making $572 million a year. I'm nowhere near that. What happened was Prime had a very successful month. I think we did like 60 to 70 million, and I sent it to our group chat because I was proud of the business. I was stoked to show the boys, and I think George maybe misinterpreted that as like my personal income.
George said that he showed a screenshot of him making 11 million, and Logan conveniently laughs it out and says that if I made 11 million every week, I would have made this much a year, and I'm not, I'm far from this much. Dude, he didn't even say you make 11 million every week. He said you made 11 million for that particular week, and you sent a screenshot of it on the boys group chat. And Logan conveniently shows how much Prime earned because they had a successful, run for that particular week, and what, 60 million or whatever it was, which is basically him saying what George says was true, because you're partly the owner of Prime, and if Prime made 60 million, you're probably going to make some of it. So George was literally right when he said that you sent a screenshot of it on the group, right? So when people are not earning as much as you, don't you think it's a little wrong to be showing them that much, and then also, not giving them deals on Prime? Like Logan didn't give George a deal on Prime, and he also didn't want George to take a deal on Celsius, and he clearly told him that he's going to be fired if he takes a deal, from Celsius, which is a bit wrong. Like, if you're earning 11 million even for 1 week, you can probably pay George some amount of it, right? For if you don't want him to take Celsius, you can't expect him not to take Prime, not to take Celsius, and just sit without like a brand sponsor on a podcast. And what was a little wrong here was Logan revealed the entire earning on Impulsive of George, which is a bit too much, because you can't be showing a man's income out like that. It's crossing a bit of a line, and it would have been obviously it would have been different if George said he never made any money. But the only thing George said was for a particular few months he made only 5k, or for a particular month. He never spoke about making 5k throughout while working for Impulsive. The move was pretty manipulative on Logan's part, because obviously the public's gonna see that much money and freak out and think George is being ungrateful. And honestly, Logan Paul gives himself a pat on the back for paying George how much he was worth by showing the entire, earnings. But honestly, that's how much George's worth was on a podcast like Prime, which is the #1 podcast in the world. Obviously, a co-host is going to be paid that much, specifically when it's a driving podcast for Prime sales as well. And, obviously he's going to earn that much if he's hosting Impulsive, because it's a huge podcast, right? So obviously, by showing how much George is worth and by showing how much he earned, you didn't give it out to him, he earned it. So for showing that was a bit too much, because he was probably worth that much. And obviously Logan talks about how podcasting is a dream job and how George got to meet cool people. And dude, we get it. Like, everybody wants to, have podcasts, and everybody wants to be doing this. But showing the world how much George made on your podcast because he was worth it is a bit too much. And, to be talking about what his deliverables were, and to be talking about how many hours he worked and how many, dollars he made per hour, don't you feel it's a little like too much to be speaking about on the internet? The next point is basically where Logan says that he called George, when George left, he called George and he spoke to him.
Not you, not Caleb, not Kevin, not Dylan. Nobody called me when I got fired.
George did not get fired. He quit. I'll touch on that in a second. But after he quit, I called him frequently.
But again, Logan Paul cut out the clip of George saying it himself. George himself said that only Logan called me, and it wasn't even to fix things. It was not like a positive call. It was again saying that Mike wouldn't have done something like this, right? So George is saying the stuff himself, which is not the best thing to do.
Nobody called me when I got fired. Not one person called me. You know what I get a call from? Logan saying, at least Mike wouldn't do this.
And also Logan talks about how George, said that they filmed 3 episodes on his birthday, but apparently Logan said they shot only 2 episodes. So Logan or Mike could have easily texted George and said, we're going to shoot 2 episodes today. I know it's your birthday. I hope it's fine. Something, like as a friend, I think you should do that much. And again, Logan proved that George was right about it, because they actually had filmed 2 podcasts, whenever George was referring to it. And also when Logan Paul talks about the Celsius deal, it clearly is written in his message that, George is fired if he takes the Celsius deal.
Got my show going, and then not only was I controlled and pushed around on Impulsive, but then Logan's making calls and directing my show. He told me that I couldn't take Celsius.
So this is the big one. Making calls, trying to make it seem like I wanted to control his show is absolutely absolutely ridiculous. As you can see right here, I was like, hey, we got to get you Prime because I saw him drinking our competitor, and he told me to call him. He was filming my reaction to tell me he took a deal with a competitor. I told him, please don't film. Like, I'd like to talk about this. I hope you're joking, by the way. The truth is, I thought it was a bad look that my best friend and co-host took a brand deal with our competitor without consulting me, asking me, giving us even a chance to match it before he signed the deal, because the audience that he's building, at least at the time, on his own podcast was being funneled directly from the podcast that I was building with him. I said, hey, dude, I understand you need to make money. The entire text is right here that I sent him after our conversation, because I did understand his position if he needed to make money, but I thought it was also a little odd because he did make $317,000 in 15 months. Regardless, I did tell him I can't have him on Impulsive if he's going to take the deal with the competitor, but if after he makes the money he wants to come back to the podcast, he's more than welcome.
So that's basically what it is. Like, Logan never gave George like an opportunity that, here, you know, I'm going to give you a Prime deal, which is a bit too much, and Logan ignored the fact that, you know, George said that even if you match half a quarter, I'll still not take Celsius and I'll still take Prime. Logan ignored the fact that he told George, I'll not pay you a dime.
And I tell him, I go, Logan, I get it, bro. And I fully told him, I go, listen, man, like, I will take half the deal that Celsius gives me. Half. If you want to put it on the table for my show, a quarter, work with me. He says, I won't pay you a dime. You're here because of me. And then I said, well, what do you want me to do for my bills, bro? I got no money. And he says, go have your rich dad pay for it.
Listen,
that's fighting words, bro. Look at me.
No,
that's
but
fighting
you,
words, bro.
you
don't bring up somebody's father.
You can't be telling your friend, I'll not pay you a dime, specifically when he has your drink on his show. And apparently Mike tried to get Celsius too, but he doesn't have Celsius or Prime currently, which is crazy because Prime is literally a multi-million-dollar company. So your co-host on a show, Impulsive, which is a driving factor for Prime, I think he deserves a particular share of Prime, right? In the end, George also talks about growth and how Mike can't really grow in Impulsive, but Logan cuts it out and makes it look like George is talking about, you know, follower growth or talking about subscribers and clout. But George is actually talking about confidence. Right after the clip and the part that Logan cut, George is talking about how confident he feels and how better he feels to be working himself. And
hey man, where you're at, there's no room for you to grow. They won't let you grow. They will not let you grow.
I thought saying that to Mike was a little crazy. He's grown a lot. He has 2.7 million subscribers since we met. He's a multimillionaire, a best-selling author. I tried as much as I could to help him get into those positions, and it's not entirely because of me. Mike is a phenom in his own right, and he capitalized on the platform that I gave him, which is awesome. Just like George is doing now. But if that's not growth, like what is?
He's not talking about subscribers or money or anything like that. He's talking only about actual things like confidence and, you know, stuff like that.
But now I have confidence. Now I could stand on my own show. I have my own finance. I have my own fiance. I have my own life.
Right.
That's why when I sit here and have these conversations with you, this is the best version of me because I went through the fire. I want to sit with you and say, bro, like, you think that you're done growing. You're not. You have so much more to give, because those moments that we would have in the hotel rooms by ourselves, those were us. You saw the version of me that everybody sees now behind closed doors. I saw that version of you.
Yeah,
and I'm excited to show that version to other people.
Logan also ignored the entire Bobby Lee conversation, the Bobby Lee doing weird stuff to George conversation. He also ignored the fact that he cut out and edited that podcast to make George look stupid. He ignored a lot of it, right? When you make a 4-minute video in response to a 2.5-hour podcast, probably in which George spoke about Logan for at least half an hour, 45 minutes, you're not going to get too much across, right? It obviously made Logan look good for the time being. And I obviously am just witnessing this and just sad because I've watched Logan and George growing up, and it's not nice to see how things have unfolded. But doesn't seem like the issue is getting better, because George literally told Logan to come on the show and, you know, talk to him. There's another video of that where George says, come on the show, talk to me because you have a lot of things to talk about. He also says, bring your bodyguards and you can also bring your freaking lawyer, which is a bit too much, you know, in detail to be talking about. So basically, comment down below whose side you're on. For now, I think I'm on George's side, because obviously a lot of things have happened, and when it comes to insulting somebody's religion, and when it comes to, it's a bit too much, right? It's a bit too detailed to be discussing. Obviously, it is what it is. At the end of the day, whatever's gonna happen will happen. But anyway, like, subscribe, and peace out.